Welcome to Trending Upward, and this is Chad Hayes. I want to thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Trending Upward, and I trust that the podcast today will be a help to you. It is my desire that the Word of God be used in such a way on this platform that it would be a help to you as you seek to trend upward. It is important that this life that we live be an ascending Christian life and not a descending Christian life. I trust it to be a help to you as you listen today. Today we're going to look at hindrances to moving forward. This is essentially the most common things that I have found that cause people to be reluctant to moving forward. Number one is fear. Fear can paralyze progress and keep a person from stepping into what God would have for them. I'm reminded of 2 Timothy 1 and verse 7. For God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of sound mind. Whether you're listening to this podcast today and you are saved or you have never placed faith and trust in Jesus Christ, fear is a tool that the devil uses to keep you where you are. But we recognize that God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of sound mind. I want you to know it would be counterintuitive to God's plan and God's design for our lives if He would lead us in any way and then send fear of taking that step. That would be counterintuitive. Notice doubt and unbelief. These things greatly hinder God's people, and it prevents folks from trusting God fully. In James 1 and verse 6, but let him ask in faith, nothing wavering. For he that wavereth is like a wave of the sea, driven with the wind and tossed. Matthew 13 and verse 58. And he did not many mighty works there because of their unbelief. I want you to know that unbelief in our hearts ties God's hands. If we want to see God move in our church, in our churches, we've got to kick the unbelief. If we want to see God do a work in our hearts, if we want to see God do a work in our homes, we have got to kick the unbelief out. It says very plainly in Matthew 13:58, and he did not many mighty works there because of their unbelief. Oh, unbelief, it leads to a lack of seeing God move in our hearts and in our lives and in our families and in our churches because of unbelief. It is a hindrance to moving forward. Another hindrance to moving forward is looking back, constantly revisiting the past, constantly dwelling in the past and living in the past is a hindrance to moving forward. Isaiah 43 and verse 18, remember ye not the former things, neither consider the things of old. It says, neither consider the things of old. So many people today, and tragically even churches, are so busy looking back that they cannot move forward. Maybe they're looking back to a time in the church when things were just great, it seemed, and things were just blossoming, and everything was going according to plan, and everything was going well, and maybe the church isn't exactly in that same season right now, and people are finding it hard to move forward because they're looking back. Or maybe a church could find itself also looking back to a time when things were not so well. Things were rough. Maybe there was a church split, or maybe there was difficult, trying times in the church, and that church is looking back to those times, and it's hindering them from moving forward. I tell you today, looking back can be a great hindrance to moving forward. Sometimes you've got to get your face out of the rearview mirror and start looking through the windshield at where you're going. Notice also another hindrance is sin and spiritual bondage. Unconfessed sin and habitual patterns in our lives and strongholds hinder spiritual progress. Hebrews 12:1, wherefore seeing we also are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which doth so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us. This is important, just the emphasis here. The race that is set before us. It does not say the race that is ran behind us. I want you to know the race that you ran yesterday, that leg of it is over with. That is done with. You cannot rerun yesterday's race. You cannot rerun last week's race. You can't rerun last month's race or last year's race or the race of the last 10 years. You can only run the race that is set before you. In John 8 and verse 36, if the Son therefore shall make you free, ye shall be free indeed. Another hindrance to moving forward is a lack of vision. Just a lack of direction. With a lack of direction, momentum fades. Try walking somewhere and you've lost sight of why you were going there. You automatically start slowing down. Think about this. We can all relate to this. Sometimes we get up off the couch and we go to another room to get something. On our way to the other room to get whatever it is, we forgot why we were going to the other room, and we forgot what we were going to get. Now, let me ask you something. Once you found yourself in that place and you were walking and you forgot why you were going to the room to get what it was that you were going to get, did you lose momentum? I guarantee you did. You're not walking as fast as you were. You're not walking as confident as you were, as sure as you were, because you forgot what you were doing to begin with. So a lack of vision, a lack of direction will cause a shift in momentum. Proverbs 29:18, where there is no vision, the people perish. But he that keepeth the law, happy is he. Notice this hindrance to moving forward, discouragement. A heavy heart. A heavy heart can quite simply slow progress. It can also weaken perseverance. You ever been sitting down, maybe around your home or in your car or at work, and you just have a heavy heart? You just don't feel that motivated. 1 Samuel 30 and verse 6, and David was greatly distressed, for the people spake of stoning him, because the soul of all the people was grieved, every man for his sons and for his daughters, but David encouraged himself in the Lord his God. Joshua 1:9, have not I commanded thee, be strong and of good courage, be not afraid, neither be thou dismayed, for the Lord thy God is with thee whithersoever thou goest. Notice also wrong associations. This can be a hindrance to moving forward. The people around us can hinder spiritual growth. 1 Corinthians 15, verse 33, be not deceived, evil communications corrupt good manners. That's just spending time with the wrong kind of people. Proverbs 13:20, he that walketh with wise men shall be wise, but a companion of fools shall be destroyed. Pride's a big one. Pride can be a hindrance to moving forward. Pride blinds and it blocks God's guidance in our hearts and lives and in our churches. We see in Proverbs 16:18, where pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. James 4 and verse 6, but he giveth more grace, wherefore he saith, God resisteth the proud, but giveth grace to the humble. Notice also worrying and anxiety hinders future progress and moving forward. Excessive worrying, it prevents faith from functioning in our hearts and lives. It prevents us seeing the fruit of faith. I tell you what, how many times has it been a blessing to you when you said, you know what, I was facing something pretty significant and I was tempted to not move forward. I was worried about my next step. I had anxiety about my next step and where it led, but by faith, you stepped out with the Lord. You trusted His sight. You didn't have sight of your own. And you're able to look back on those times now, and it just increases your faith. 1 Peter 5, verse 7, casting all your care upon Him, for He careth for you. Philippians 4:6, be careful for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known unto God. And then lastly this morning, a big hindrance to moving forward is a lack of prayer and the Word in our lives. Neglecting spiritual disciplines weakens direction and strength. Psalm 119:105, thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. Luke 18 and verse 1, and he spake a parable unto them to this end, that men ought always to pray and not to faint. In this Christian life, I just want to remind you that the biggest thing is our walk with the Lord, but next to that is just moving forward as a Christian and moving forward as a disciple for Christ. So remember these hindrances today to moving forward, and that's fear, that's doubt and unbelief, looking back, sin and spiritual bondage, a lack of vision, discouragement, wrong associations, pride, worry and anxiety, and lack of prayer and the Word. Be careful of these things because they will hinder you from moving forward. I'd like to thank you for listening today to Trending Upward. If it's been a help to you, I invite you to share this podcast with someone and help get the word out on how they too can trend upward in their walk with God.